Well, hello, and welcome back to another Chris McPherson Show Daily Dose. And it's time to preview the fifth test of the Ashes. Hard to believe the summer of cricket has gone past us in the blink of an eye, and some of it very much in the blink of an eye with some two-day tests right amongst it. There's been plenty to talk about. There's plenty to look ahead to, including a notable retirement that will start the show. Before I go any further, welcome back in Adam Clemens. Clem, good to have you back on to preview the fifth test, mate.
Thanks, mate. Great to be here. Plenty to talk about. I'm probably a little bit fired up today because I think it just shows how much time I've had sitting around waiting for cricket. A lot of time to think about stuff that I probably shouldn't be. A lot of time considering things that I wouldn't have normally thought about, but here we are.
It's dangerous when you leave the mug punters to start thinking, isn't it? Dear, oh dear. Well, as always, if you haven't already, make sure to give a like to the video, hit subscribe, and get involved in the comments. Let us know when we start teeing off what we get right, what we get wrong, and, what your thoughts are, of course. Get involved there. But, of course, it is the fifth test. The series is done and dusted. But I want to start it off. It's a moment in time where we're going to farewell another key figure of Australia's test team from the last 15 years. Usman Khawaja has announced his retirement will be effective after the SCG test. He'll retire at the age of 39. An impressive career. He'll retire as the 19th most capped Australian test cricketer of all time, in front of names like Mike Hussey, Greg and Ian Chappell and Brett Lee. Current test average just shy of 43 and a half with 16 centuries. Currently the 17th most for his country at this stage. He could climb up that list a little, and just over 6,000 test runs. And a fitting location, Clem, to finalise his strong career. It's a career that started at the SCG in January 2011 against England, and the scene of his triumphant return in January 2022 against, again, England, where he scored 2 tons after a 2.5-year absence, and also the venue the year later where he scored his highest score on Australian soil, 195 not out against South Africa. A New South Welshman, obviously born in Pakistan, now plies his trade for Queensland, but the SCG clearly holds a special point for Khawaja, and it feels like it's a nice full circle moment, which is a rarity in modern sport that a player gets that opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's very blessed to be able to call time in Sydney on his own terms. I know that there's been a lot of people that have sort of been expecting it or pushing it. But for him to get to call his time in Sydney, I've been privileged enough to be there for both of those hundreds against England a few years ago and the 195 against South Africa. He's been a mammoth at the top of the order. Just unpacking his return for that Ashes test, the Ashes series in 2022. Since his return to the team after 3 years in the wilderness for differing reasons, he's hit the most runs of any Australian batsman with over 3,000. It's second best across all Test nations, only behind Joe Root, who's played a lot more Test matches than him in the same time. He's got the best average amongst Australian bats in that time, 46, just edging out Steve Smith. The highest Test score by an Aussie in the same time period. 8 of his Test hundreds have come in the last 4 years, only second to Steve Smith. And he's had a big drop off, I would say, in the last 18 months, especially, which just shows how dominant his first 24 months, 30 months back in the team were.
Yeah.
As you said, top 20 all time for Australian runs. He's been amazing at the top of the order for our team for a long time.
Well, he had that period, right, when he first came back in. I think it was like 4 centuries in 5 tests. He then got that almost double ton. He got a 195, then he got a 180 in India, a 141 as well. I think at the first game against England in Birmingham, and then it kind of dried out there a little bit, but there was still plenty of 40s, 70s, 90s there. He was tasked with obviously opening the batting at that point, and then that last flourish, that last bit of glory at the start of this year, 232, which is his highest score against Sri Lanka in Gaul. I think we realistically need to you go through those stats. This is a guy who's overcome, he's been dropped from the test team, I think 4 times in total. He's had quite a ride to get to 88 tests. As I said, the first test he played January 2011, and the only other player from the 22 players that were in those starting lineups, still in action, is Steve Smith. You've got guys like Kevin Peterson, Paul Collingwood, Graham Swan, Peter Siddle. I mean, Peter Siddle's still in action, just not in Test cricket. He'll be playing Big Bash for another 20 years. Don't worry about that. Michael Beer, Michael Hussey, Brad Haddon, Michael Clark, Phil Hughes, of course, rest in peace, Phil, and Shane Watson. So, it's quite phenomenal to think of, some of those names that have come and gone. And yeah, to have a 15-year career and as we said, to be in the top 20 for Australia for test caps, test centuries, and test runs, and he actually has the chance here. I think he needs about 30 runs to go past MEK Hussey. He won't catch
Yeah,
the next guy
wow.
in front of him because he's about 700, 800 runs in front of him, the illustrious DG Bradman. So
Mm.
it's pretty good company to be in. And as I said,
Mm.
more cap than some of those other players like a Brett Lee, a Greg Chappell, these sorts of guys is, absolutely phenomenal. And I think we've got a very big recency bias when we look at players, and everyone's going, "Oh, well, what has he done for us lately?"
Mm.
But the body of work, of consistency, and those very high peaks that were extended in those periods, I think we need to doff our caps. This is a guy who will,
Mm.
later on be very fondly looked at. I think in the past when we get out of that recency window. In the future, I
I
should say, not in the past.
totally agree. He's been there for a long time now. He's been in and out of the team a few times, which is not easy to come back from. I've got it written down here. He played 10 tests his first 4 years, uh, and then he got a recall in 2015. He then scored 400s in 5 tests. The fifth test that he didn't score 100 in, he didn't bat. So that's an important distinction to make. He went 100, 100, 100, didn't bat, and 100. I think they got washed out. I can't remember where it was at though. But that sort of cemented him in the team until 2019. And then he had 3 years out, came back, and that 230 hit against Sri Lanka probably stamped his ticket to earn selection in this Test series and give him sort of a ramp to go down into the sunset in Sydney. Again, very special to let him come home to Sydney and do it there. Uh, Obviously, me and you will both be down there, and it's added another layer of excitement to it. I'm a little bit sad now talking about it out loud that he's gone because he's been such a good player for so long. Uh, One other thing I was looking at was against his nation of birth, Pakistan. He averaged 75 against them, and he went to Pakistan in 2022, the year of his recall, hit 500 runs in 3 tests. Um, he always said, it doesn't mean anything extra to me. Obviously, his Pakistani father, it did mean quite a lot. I think he averaged 165 in that series. So he's done it everywhere. As you said, he hit hundreds in India, England, Pakistan. He's done it all around the world. So um, can't can't praise him enough. He's been, and as you said, I think nostalgia will look upon him kindly.
Yeah, I think they will. And that test, of course, was the one that you talked about where he didn't bat, was a Sydney test. And we know what sort of record he's got in Sydney. That was one of the most rain-affected Sydney tests. I think we lost day 3 and day 4 that year.
Yeah.
Back in 2016, it would have been. So
Yes, that's right.
against the
Yeah.
West Indies. So, and he would have been batting 5 in that team at the time. So, and that's the other thing. This is a guy who's performed at everywhere in the top 6 in the
Mm.
batting lineup, right? Like he has batted in a lot of different positions. And that's becoming more the norm. But again, the People's Champ, a very fitting, even if self-appointed moniker by Usman.
Yeah.
And I'll certainly be. Look, I'm there days 1 and 2, and I really hope we get to see him bat, and hopefully he can go out with a bang here and get another century, move up that list a little further, and just add some more to a glowing resume. And undoubtedly, I'm sure we'll see him for some years to come in the Big Bash and hopefully the Sheffield Shield as well as he goes back to. I mean, I'd love to see him in a blue cap, but I think we'll see him finish out in Queensland now. He and Rachel are settled up there. But there's lots to talk about outside of Usman Khawaja, as much as you and I could probably talk for another 15 to 25 minutes on him easily. We'll move right along and move into let's talk about the pitch, right? Obviously, pitches are very much the theme at the moment. It's given us a lot of time. I'm going to take a guess and say there's going to be significantly less than 10 millimetres of grass on the SCG pitch.
Mate, I just have to say the photos that come out of the pitch days before give no indication of what it's going to look like on the day of the test. I don't know if you're familiar with this. I don't know if the Melbourne curator's familiar with this, but there is a thing called a lawnmower. And all that green grass you can see on the pitch right now, that will be gone. And I'll tell you right now, I put money on a draw 3 days ago because that curator is going to be nervous as hell about, the game fizzling out in 2 days. I think there's a forecast of rain on day 1. So that being the case, plus how much pressure will be coming on this curator from Todd Greenberg, I've got my money on a draw.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think I looked yesterday. That rain forecast is like there's storms around, but I think there's like at about 4 p.m. there's about a 30% chance of 5 mil. So I don't
Yeah.
know there's gonna be too much. But again, there will be a lot of pressure on it. And the SCG in Shield matches in recent years has been a little more docile.
Yes.
So he's going to be between a rock and a hard place. And I'm going to be honest, I don't think he can win as a curator.
No.
And that's the thing that people don't realise. The MCG curator's actions will now, put impacts and influence on him. If he was going to try and make it a little bit more sporting for the ball, we know the SCG tends to be probably one of, if not the most spin-friendly test pitches in Australia. If he was going to try and shape it for that now, it's about balancing it out. But I guess we'll see. And, as the great Shane Warne used to say, though, if the wicket's good for seam, it's good for spin. Because, Warney was happy to bowl on anything. He would have bowled on the Pacific Highway down here in Newcastle. He wouldn't have minded. And I know Nathan Lyon is oft repeating that. But, it'll be interesting to see. On that note, do we expect there's going to be what I'll call the obvious or the most talked about change of Todd Murphy coming into the test side? It would be absolutely bananas to think that we would have an SCG test without a spinner. As I said, it's been renowned for as long as I can remember. Certainly, the 30-odd years I've been watching test cricket, that it is the spinner's deck in Sydney. You've only got to think about some of those showings from Warney, from SCG McGill, from Michael Clark, some of these other guys, with dim lights on day 5. They're great memories I've got as a child and a teenager growing up. So what are we expecting in terms of it? Are we expecting Murphy to come in and they lean towards that spin-friendly option?
I think it will be the death of spin in Australian Test cricket if Todd Murphy doesn't get picked. I was a very average leg spinner as a kid, but I loved it. Obviously, Warney was the big influence there. Todd Murphy, for the sake of Test cricket in Australia, I think he has to play. I guess the bottom line is if Nathan Lyon was fit, he would have played in Melbourne. It wouldn't have been a pitch-based selection. He would have played. And again, now we wouldn't be talking about having this conversation right now if Nathan Lyon was fit. He'd just be playing. If you have a good enough spinner, they play in almost all conditions. Warney rolled out that line about if it seems it spins quite a lot. Whether that was true or not, I don't know. But
if you're Warney, it spins.
Exactly.
Glass tabletop, it spins.
Exactly right. If you're Warney, you can do it wherever you want, whenever you want, to whoever you want. So I just want to circle back around to these conditions for a second.
Yeah.
I find it very strange that we now live in a world where curators have press conferences. No one in the world should know who Matt Page is. It hasn't just happened in Melbourne. It's happened before Brisbane, Perth, Adelaide. It's very strange. I don't like it. Can we please stop?
Well,
it used to just be Tony Gregg or whoever was doing the pitch report would go out to the middle, and if there was a chance meeting, if the curator was out there rolling the pitch or whatever, Tony Gregg would drag him off, say, "How's it going? What are you doing?" And that was it. And now, before every single test, it feels like we have a press conference with a media scrum before every test.
Is that about one, the need for us? I don't remember as a kid we didn't really see photos 3 days before the test because, as you pointed out, the grass can be 6 inches long 3 days before the test. So long as the underneath surface has been rolled and laid and everything else has been done in the lead up, they might just be doing that to keep a bit of extra moisture in, and then et cetera, et cetera. There's lots of reasons, right? If you start going to the weeds of that, so. I think it's now that we're in this social media age of, we want to know, we want to have insight. And to your point before, the betting age as well, right? People want to think they've got more intel and information. But I'm going to put a counter on them not having press conferences here, right? Think about, at the end of the day, the reason that the players that have press conferences are because they're the 11, 12, 15 best players in their country, right? Realistically, Matt Page he was parachuted in to Melbourne a few years ago because of the dramas they had, because he was the best in the country. So surely, if that's something that the curators are happy to do and to have a profile as the best at what they do in the world, and, you think about this, there's 9 test-playing nations. Realistically, 4 to 6 of those have, real following behind them at a consistent level, maybe 8 if you start throwing in the Sri Lankas of the world. And outside of India, most countries have only got sort of 5 or 6 grounds that are consistently used for Test cricket. India's got about 112. I don't know. Again, they've got enough people to figure it out. But you're the top 50 in your profession in the world. And it's a profession that goes all the way across multiple sporting surfaces. And for mine, cricket pitches are the most elite of this because a footy field is the outfield, right? That's a lawn bowling green, all those sorts of things. It's about keeping it short, keeping it consistent. You're not varying it by a little bit of treatment and different things and speeding it up. So I'm going to say they're in the top 50 of their gig in the world. So it's no different to Alex Demonor having a press conference for mine. I know it's a little bit different, but they are supposed to be the best of the best. But if they're going to have those press conferences, it needs to not just be a fluff piece. It needs to be accountability. And then if they're not performing and there's back-to-back tests, well, jobs need to roll because they're no longer in the top 50.
It's a fair point, I suppose. I mean, I probably hadn't thought of it in the fact of them being professionals and being in the top tier of their thing, but they're still a byproduct of the game. They're producing the game, I suppose. I guess you make a good point, but really, I think everyone could say Matt Page made a mistake. He just made a mistake, and as you said, like 10 years ago, that pitch was an absolute road, and I think they've gone a little bit too far the other way. Now, but while we're on this, I know you want to get to lineups and things like that. Cricket Australia said they lost $10 million on this test. They lost $5 million on the Perth test. But the biggest statement I took out of all that was Todd Greenberg said we made a loss on the last series against India, which was the most well-attended test series in history, if I remember correctly. They have a money management problem if they can't make money when Australia versus India in Australia.
That's your cash cow, right? On the cycle.
Like, I was shocked.
We talk about that. Like it's India and the Ashes, and yes, I know they've lost money on the Ashes because of timing and stuff, but that was a hard-fought, long-serving series.
It was an incredible series.
I'm not sure what money they lost.
That's what I mean. That was the biggest thing that came out of this talk about losing money on two of the tests in this series is they have a money management problem, not a curator problem.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back to last year's test. Like, I think every test went to, except maybe the day-night test where
Sydney went to three days, I think. Sydney went to 3 days. Melbourne definitely went to the 5th day. They had that incredible finish in the last session. India spanked us in Perth, but I still think it went to at least 4 days.
But yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. Like 3 and 4 days, it wasn't as much of the. I'm just pulling it up now, and day 4 Australia, so there was 50 overs on day 4 in Perth. As you said, Sydney was day 3. Brisbane was the other one that finished short as well, I think, from memory, but that was because we declared it 7 for 89 and decided to try and freshen our bowlers up as much as anything, but still would have got to. It was day 5 when it wrapped up, so. Yeah, interesting times. But anyway, maybe we need to be looking at who's doing the finances at Cricket Australia more than who's cutting the grass at the MCG.
As I said, we've had way too much time between test matches, and it's because of that curator.
Can we get a press conference with the CFO and the accountants?
Oh, that absolutely not. But wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great to hold someone accountable? You talk about accountability. There's your accountability right there.
Insert Jeff Tuvey. There needs to be an investigation.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about some actual.
Let's talk about some
cricket. The sides coming into this test. Let's start with the English. They're coming off a win. You would think they will minimise changes, but the one thing we know is Gus Atkinson highly unlikely to play. Basically, they've said he won't play. My punt is that Matthew Potts will probably be the one that will come in. He's a guy who's shown an ability across a pretty limited sample size, 10 tests, to get some good bounce, not lightning quick, but some good bounce, some good line and length. Probably what you'd call a medium fast bowler rather than a fast medium.
Yeah, I'm the same as you. I think I've just got Matthew Potts coming in. Curiously, I believe that means Bryden Cast will play all 5 tests, which seems shocking to me because I feel like since the second test we've been saying he probably needs a break. He was very expensive, especially through the first 3 tests. He was picking up wickets, but a lot of the time that was when the Aussie batsmen were hitting out, getting themselves out, for want of a better saying. But it would be so on brand for England to now change the lineup, make a meaningful change to the lineup outside of Atkinson, now that it's too late to make a meaningful change that will swing the series.
Yeah, but again, the only other thing I can see is they bring Shoaib Bashir in finally, but I just figure he's on holiday. He's just on a paid holiday.
He has to be. They can't bring him in now. That's exactly the sort of thing I mean, though. Like, it would be so on brand right now for them to do something like that out of the blue, bring him in and give him a go. I don't think they will, though. I think, as I said, it'll be unchanged. Jacob Bethel will get another run over Ollie Pope. Atkinson will go out, Potts will come in, and the rest will remain unchanged.
Is there an escape clause for Brendan McCullum to say, "Oh, we always intended on playing an out-and-out spinner"? Because they've been noted in saying that Will Jacks is a batting all-rounder, right? But we always intended on playing our out-and-out spinner in Sydney. Still seems bizarre to bring a guy to play one test, but anyway.
It also seems bizarre to, come into a 5-test series, picking a guy in the squad, saying you're only going to play in Sydney as a specialist spinner, especially when there's been other spin-friendly decks. Sort of Adelaide kind of has a bit of grip when it goes long enough. Melbourne at times, I suppose it depends on who's playing, but Shane Warne definitely knew how to do it. And Nathan Lyon, as I said, would have played in that test as well if he was fit. So there's been plenty of opportunities for spinners to come in and play. So it would be very strange for me for him to come in now.
Yeah, well, again, this English side, never say never though, right? Because,
Mason Crane
came out after they lost tests and, they have moral victories or, explains that Bazball still works even though we've lost the series 3-0. And, again, you can use any data to prove a point. But I would feel for Shoaib Bashir if he got thrown in the deep end at this point. Again, I think we've talked, really briefly about this guy, but, a really small sample size. I think he's played 19 tests across an extended period, not a lot of wickets, not a lot of runs. Again, a big ask to come here and bowl in Australian conditions for one match. So, I think he played in that game, the game against Australia A, and got none for 115. So, and then picked up, even in their warm-up game, I'm not quite sure how this happened either. He bowled in the England 11 versus England Lions. He bowled in all 4 innings. And he got 1 wicket in every innings, I think, or something. There was something weird going on with it. So, anyway. But, he got 2 wickets for, a couple of 100 runs. So, anyway. Just enjoy your holiday. Go and do the bridge climb or something, show up. Up Centre Point Tower. Taronga Zoo's cool. Heaps of good stuff in Sydney, mate. Check it out.
Great stuff in Sydney. Go have a look.
Go to Bondi, Coogee. Yeah, beautiful beaches.
There's cricket on too if you want to go and watch that.
Yeah, exactly. Have a run in the Big Bash. The Thunder needs something. But all right, so onto the Aussie squad now, Clem, to wrap things up. Do we expect significant changes? What are you thinking is going to be the likely lineup for the Aussies in Sydney?
I don't think too much will change. I think Neeser might go out for Todd Murphy. Otherwise, I think it will remain pretty much the same. I think Richardson was a lot tighter than Neeser. Neeser got smacked around a bit, especially first innings against England. So I think they might have gone after him. Or maybe it was second innings, but they went after him a bit. It'll be awesome to see Richardson get another go. Probably a chance for him to put his best foot forward before the Bangladesh series as well. Otherwise, personally, I'd like to see Bo Webster get a go and Green at 7 and Green make way. But I do have some thoughts on that, but I'll let you say your piece first. But I don't think Cameron Green will be pushed out of the side for Bo Webster.
Yeah, I think we opened up our first test preview when we talked about it with the side you would pick versus the side they will pick. I actually think the same because, again, Bo Webster gives a little bit of spin coverage too if the deck does deteriorate. I mean, we're not short of that with Travis and even Marnus and even Steve Smith, right? But Marnus and Steve Smith at this point, genuine part-timers. Travis Head, part-time all-round level, so he's on the fringe of it. But again, to have that with Bo Webster, he gives you 2 options. Again, Cam Green hasn't exactly knocked the socks off, and it gives him a chance on Aussie soil. Go out there, and then, look, if he doesn't do much, well, then you're still in the same position. If he goes out and does well, you're in a great position. I think it's actually worse for Cam Green if he plays in this test because if he doesn't perform well, and I know that last test we had this discussion, and I said, look, I'd stick with Cam Green at this point because his numbers are better. But I think it's an opportunity, again, lean to that fact that, this might be spin friendly on day 4 or day 5 after, if we have to bowl. Go with that. I'd go the other way. I'd leave Neeser in. I just think what he offers with his batting a little bit more as well just gives us a bit more depth there. But I can see the argument with Richardson. He's been out for a long time. But I think Neeser, the fact that he's been in and around for longer, they will go with him. And again, you've got that probably a bit more robust coverage in terms of Neeser's probably got a few more overs in him if you start using Webster as a spinner or you just need to tie down an end and stuff. And I mean, realistically, you're going with 2 strike pace bowlers at that point with Stark and Boland with what we've got at this point. So, you're going to want to keep them fresh as you can for those stints, especially because Webster's pace isn't going to be. He's not going to get that steepling bounce that Cam Green gets. So then Nisa needs to come into that role potentially. But look, I think we're in a good position despite coming off a loss, which is a weird thing to say. But maybe like you, I've just had way too much time to think about all of this and come up with different permutations.
Oh, look, I think the last match, it really didn't tell us too much about either team. It was just, without unpacking it too far. Unfortunately, didn't get to do a bit of a review with you with that one, but it was, we didn't learn too much. I mean, the game went over so quick; it moved at lightning pace. I do agree with you though on your points about Bo Webster offering another spin option, but I would love to see Travis Head get some more and finally get to ice that finger of his.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great if we saw one of those, iconic,
Mm,
part-time spin bowlers, getting 3 or 4 on the end of day 5. And
Michael
again, I just
Clark.
like to go to day 5. He gets,
Yeah.
he gets 6 for 15 and picks
Mm,
up the last 4 for 4 runs or something ridiculous. Cleaning up the English tail, under dim lights at the SCG. That would be
yeah.
wonderful.
Michael Clark, 2008. I'll never forget it. It was incredible.
It's exactly what I was thinking, and it's always fun. You watch it on TV, and then you see the photos actually from the ground, and realize how dark it actually was.
Oh yeah,
That
it
day.
was.
It was
Yeah,
absolutely phenomenal. But
yeah.
mate, the one thing that that sounds like by the both of us saying that the batting lineup for the Aussies, the top 6 will remain the same, which you'd expect. And I guess the last question, our predictions, mate. What are you suggesting here? Who are the names that are going to light up? Is it going to be the fairy tale story? I feel we're both going to be a little bit emotionally involved. It might be the heart rather than the head here.
Oh look, the obvious pick's Usman Khawaja, isn't it? I mean, he does have a great record in Sydney, as we've spoken about, and it would be just amazing for him to go off into the sunset with another one of them and sort of stick it up to the haters, because there's a lot of people that aren't happy that he's in the team for a mixed bag of reasons, some cricket related, some not. But I think he deserves all the plaudits he gets, and I think that a chance for him to go off on his own terms with a big innings, get to do his little shuffle or whatever dance he comes up with this time would be awesome. Other guys for Australia, if Todd Murphy comes in, it'd be cool to see him get some wickets because I think, as we said, he's sort of been earmarked as the next home spinner. Um, and for England, I think it's Jacob Bethel showed a bit in the Melbourne Test, so I think it would be cool for him to get some more runs. Uh, just because he's so young, like he's probably the future of that England side, and we're definitely going to see him the next 2, 3 times that England come out.
Yeah, I think we will. I think, as you say, it'd be good to have, a familiar face. It feels like there's so much rotation in their squad these days. Certainly. And hey, I'm the same on Usman. I'd love to see him get some runs. I think Travis Head's going to go quite well, maybe with the bat and with reasonably well chipping in with the ball. Speaking of the ball, I want to see Usman. He's got one first class. We could give the man a test over. Give him a test over.
Wouldn't that be good? That'd be great. Even thinking about like Steve Smith maybe getting an over or two because he bowled a couple of overs in the Shield up in Queensland. I think it'd be pretty cool for a guy like him to get some overs in front of his home crowd, especially if the game's sort of fizzling out into. Well, here's my tip. I'm tipping a draw. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'm tipping a draw.
Yeah, well, I had assumed as much when you
Mm.
suggested that you'd put money on it already. So, I will be leaning to a day 5 finish, hopefully. So, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see. That is for certain. But we're both leaning towards it. 5 days of action. That's the main thing.
Yeah, that's right. Before we wrap up, I probably just want to say one more thing about Usman. One special thing about Usman is he's a personality. The media always cries foul that we don't have enough personalities in the game, people that aren't afraid to speak their mind, live their truth or however you want to frame it. But he's gone and done that, and I think sometimes the media, once they get that, they don't know how to handle it. And so he's really been one of those guys, obviously super popular within the Australian group, um, and deserves this last send off. And if he gets a wicket, that would just be the icing on the cake.
Imagine the scenes. I think they describe him as a right arm medium pacer, and I'm led to believe that's generous.
Yeah,
But
go on.
I was going to say, we'll wait and see. There's 5 days to come. We are looking forward to it all gets underway this weekend, the final test, and we'll be looking back and wishing for more once it's all done and dusted. But one thing that is for certain, Clem, the Ashes are ours. We cannot lose them. but my goodness, it'd be nice to make it 4-1. You're tipping 3-1 from here. I'm saying 4-1. But hey, we both tipped Australia to win the last one, so who knows?
Yeah, that's right. I think maybe we can write the last one off because that was just ridiculous. You know, I'm not going to take too much. I did say earlier on that I was tipping a 3-1, so maybe there's a bit of internal bias operating there. But obviously, an Aussie wins on the cards, but I need to back my money at the moment.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Well, a big thank you to you as always, Clem. Great to have you on. Looking forward to
Thanks, mate.
debriefing some of this test with you
Mm.
as it goes on. And a big thank you to you all for tuning in. Wonderful to have you all here. Of course, if you haven't already, hit subscribe, hit like on the video, get involved in the comments. Let us know what we've got right, what we've got wrong. Let us know your favourite Usman Khawaja memories. I'll tell you what, for a trivia question, if you can tell me who he got out in that one first class wicket, that's a good one for the trivia. But as always, make sure to stay tuned to the channel. We look forward to being back to you again soon. But thank you for tuning into your home of the black and white of sport. No grey opinions here.